that moth nail, I tried to ID it, and I know you've had this experience, you're like, oh, I'll just go on the internet and ID this moth. Which, no, I mean, there are thousands of moths, and, you have to be a moth expert to ID this moth. And, I did run into this raging controversy about moths, peppered moths. This is some kind of peppered moth. And the controversy is that the theory of natural selection was advanced using these moths in industrial England, saying that when England industrialized and coal soot covered everything, that all of a sudden the population of moths shifted towards the darker variety moth because they could hide in all the soot-encrusted trees. So they had been whiter, and now they shifted to the darker ones. So this was like, this is natural selection at work, and Charles Darwin was right. And then there was this huge controversy with all these creationists who said, well, somebody staged those photographs with those moths. And, I don't know, they were just saying, like, none of this is true, and it doesn't prove natural selection. I don't know, that's all I kept coming up with when I tried to Google peppered moths. This raging controversy between the creationists and the evolutionists. So I never ID'd it. I put this one in. The rest of these slides are just ones that are in my book that are not on the wall because I sold them. So this is the Rookery at Audubon Park. A lot of you probably recognize the street if you live in town. This was really fun to do because people would stop and talk to me. And people would stop and talk to me a lot when I'm drawing. And I noticed they would never stop and talk to the photographers. Because of course there's like everybody's out there with their cameras to photograph the rookery if they have their young. But, there's something about somebody with a big camera or something that's maybe intimidating. You don't want to bother them with their equipment or whatever. But they're totally happy to come up and chat with me, which was fine. It was fun to hear all the different comments and so on. Next slide. This is Mark Scheck-Snyder, who works with City Park a lot, and who is a biologist, and I believe he's with the State Department of Agriculture. Anyway, he's a fisheries guy. He knows the ecology of Southeast Louisiana real well. He says that these bits of water right there along City Park Avenue are what's left of the original Bayou Meadowy, which, anytime you have a winding road in New Orleans, you're following an over-the bank. So Meadowy Road, of course, winds around, and it's on an over-the bank. And actually, one thing to do on Meadowy Road is, when you look at it, you see that one bit of the road is actually higher than the other, and that's the south side is higher than the north side. Because first they laid down one road on top of the bank, and then later in the 50s or something, they expanded, and at that point they filled in what at this point was a ditch, what was left of Bayou Meadowy, and laid, the road on the other side. So you can actually see, especially right by the cemeteries, that the north side is lower, and that's the road laid on top of the bayou. Anyway, this is what's left of old Bayou Meadowy that used to run. There was an old crevasse from the river, ran right around there to Bayou St. John, and then a big portion of it went south and right across where the river is now. I forget how old, 2,000 years ago, something like that, 2,500 years ago, going back. Anyway, City Park I always think is special because it's one of the wilder parks in the country. It's not as planned as other parks because there are still some actual wild elements in the park, and you do get, being so close to the lake and the sound and the Gulf, you do get a lot of bird species in there, and some of those oaks are about 600 years old there on the City Park Avenue side, so dating back to before New Orleans was here. So I wanted to include that as part of our sort of natural heritage and landscape of New Orleans. And I actually, I sat there only for about an hour and a half, and I actually saw all those different species, which there's at least 8 or 9 in there of birds, which, it's pretty astonishing for an urban area of water birds that aren't mallards or muscovy ducks or something. And this is, I think, the last one that is not on the wall. This is a cemetery shot. Captain Bisso's tomb in the Carrollton area. It's a cemetery in the Carrollton area, and I just like the grass that had come up. Last one. These are some pitcher plants that I did. I don't know, it was a long time ago, maybe 7 or 8 years ago. The Nature Conservancy has a site near Beaver Springs called Money Hill. It's partly boggy and highland savanna. Pitcher plants and other animal-eating plants always grow in very nutrient-poor soils. And that's why they're eating insects, because they're not actually getting enough minerals from the ground. So they'll grow in wet, nutrient-poor soils. And what I like about all these pitcher plants is that they all seem to be talking to each other. Or, it's kind of like a party or something. Everybody's talking, nobody's listening. Anyway, so I thought I would end with this one. This was, I called it conversation. And that's it. Okay.
When you say gum, you're talking about the bald cypress?
No, Nisa aquatica. It's water tupelo, black gum. It's got all these different common names and then some other gums trade names with them. So I always get completely confused with the common names. But we have some really big ones if you get over around Pearl River. I mean, the bases, before they narrow, so that whole base will be what goes underwater. You can assume that whole thing's going to go underwater at some point. Taller than easily. And it has a very buoyant wood. I guess it's a way of storing oxygen or something, so the fishermen used to use that for all their floats and stuff.
Dark decoys. That's a very
Right,
good word.
because they float.
It's soft,
Yeah, it's a soft wood, and it's very buoyant. Or at least the base is. I think maybe higher up the trunk, not so much. But all the base ones are very buoyant. A lot of oxygen in the cells in between the spaces.
And what do you feed irises to make them grow? I have a little iris pond.
They have these feeders. There's a gentleman, Patrick O'Connor, with the Iris Society, has a little 2-page thing with all the information you ever need on growing it. They're heavy feeders. You feed them, and they come out of dormancy, which is really nice. They're going to be coming out of dormancy in the next month. So when everything's going dormant, you start greening up and start coming out, and you feed them at the beginning of their cycle. And then late January, or as I did last year, Super Bowl Sunday, just think Super Bowl Sunday, give them a second fertilization to support the bloom. Because the rhizome, you want to make the rhizome, they grow along the ground, so the rhizome grows low. And the more strength you give to that in turn will give more strength to the bloom. So you fertilize at the beginning of the season when they come out of dormancy, late September or early October, and then the end of January, early February.
And then just keep them watered.
Yeah.
Yeah, they like a lot of moisture, especially towards the end. But once they set their spikes, you never want them to ever go dry. You want to keep them on the wet side. So towards the end, when they're setting up their spikes, you want to make sure their feet stay wet. We kind of overdo it at Longview, but it's rewarding. And then Carolyn Dorman had some input into developing the irises at Longview. She developed a little trough because we had a lot of trees, and